Welcome back to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So in this week's learning series, I will be talking about this thing called the corporate life cycle. Okay, so if you do a Google search on the internet, there are actually a lot of corporate life cycle concepts, right, being shown there. However, I have read before this book called Narrative and Numbers by Professor Ashraf. He talks about this corporate life cycle, which I can clearly resonate with them. Okay, so a little bit about this narrative and number. So I have put down the Amazon link below in the description portion. So please go and look at it and purchase it if you like to read on these things. Now, in terms of this thing called the narrative and numbers, basically they are talking about how the story of the business, what the business is, what the management talks about, the future prospect of these businesses, versus, what's the numbers that are being put up for all investors to see. In summary, at different stages of your corporate life journey or corporate life cycle, different narrative and different numbers must tell different signs of it, whether or not is it growing, whether it's not, is it stagnant, or whether is it on a decline. So this is something where every investor, in my opinion, supposed to understand. Now, in his version of this corporate life cycle, there are 6 stages as shown here. Okay, so the first being the startup stage, then the young growth, the high growth, mature, stable, and a decline stage. So at different stages of the corporate life, for any businesses, there are few things that you have to look out for. So for example, if you are investing in a company with the startup area, to be honest, there's totally very hard for any earnings to come in, because most of the time the companies are growing. So what does it mean? It means to say this at this stage, numbers is really bad. But what makes up for that lack of numbers would be the story that the business is in. As to why this business, if you invest or in the long term, in the long run, it will do well. Why is it so? So this is at stage 1. Of course, this stage here is also the riskiest stage, because not all ideas doesn't bear its fruits. Some of them just died off. So it really depends, because at the end of the day, the truth is stories is as good as the person telling you. It is, it can be a lie, it can be a potential pot of gold. So it really depends on how much do you believe in what the management tells you about it, and whether or not do you believe in his or her sides of story. So that's for the startup stage. Now for the young growth stage, it's where it transits from a negative earnings to a break even, and after that starts to have some positive signs of earnings. So this portion here, you need to track in terms of like the story, what they say, is it consistent in terms of like, can you see a break even kind of concept here? If you can't, then you have to rethink of what the management is telling you, whether does it make sense or not. Now for the high growth stage is where they're already making earnings, so basically numbers kicks in. So now when numbers starts kicking in, you need to then watch out for perhaps what's the year-on-year revenue growth, what's the margins like and stuff. So for the mature growth, this part here, generally stage 4 and 5, they are, in my opinion, relatively slow and steady kind of company. So it's more of like whether the figures, are they doing well? Are they still doing well? May not be that explosive. The growth may not be 100% on year-on-year basis. Maybe 30% year-on-year base growth, growth percent basis and stuff. So it all depends along this stage here. So this stage here, right? To me, my opinion is not so much on the narrative. It's more on like the numbers and stuff. Of course, stage 6 is this decline. I don't really bother with these companies here. Now, of course, in terms of revenue, for my opinion, in my own personal opinion, I don't like to invest in companies where they do not have revenues at all yet. Of course, Arcade is a different case. We have to monitor them because being a spec. However, I generally tend not to invest in a pre-revenue kind of business because I tend to hope to see that some form of revenues coming in. Why is it so? It's all up to personal preferences. Okay. Now, in terms of same graph, in terms of how do you make your investments, rather the decisions, right, based on the corporate life cycle. Okay, you can see, for example, startups, right? Basically, the company needs to reinvest whatever cash they have, whatever funds they have, because why they need to burn cash in order to start to grow. That is something. So I don't expect any companies at the startup stage to give cash dividends because they really need this cash. And of course, the potential danger is that a business failure. In terms of stage 2, where it's rapid expansion, okay, we have to, it's more or less still burning of cash because it's the point where they still need to go for land grab and grab market share and then start to grow. Okay. However, because how do I put it this way? Every time when a new company comes in, if it's a disruptor, okay, I mean, for me, I always look at disruptors or things that are unique. If it's a disruptor, okay, that means to say there are already existing companies, existing software, existing businesses that are doing something similar. May not be the most efficient way of doing it, but there are something similar to it. Okay, so that's why, but because there is a lack of efficiency in terms of whatever current situation is all about, and that's why there is this disruptor that's coming in to change how it works. For example, in my opinion, for the longest time, we have all the normal cars that pumps petrol and pollutes the earth. So there is a inefficiency here. And because of that, Tesla comes up promoting EV, promoting clean energy to close up that inefficiency of the current situation. So meaning to say, right, this stage 2 here is where the danger is more of like, whether can they fend off competition, whether can they grab that inefficiency and turn that inefficiency segment into their strength. Okay, then of course, high growth stage, once they can do it, they will proceed on to the high growth stage. And this is where all they need is to execute and start to grow. Then of course, the mature growth and decline, it's more like to be stable, and that's it. That's how I see it. Okay. So having said so much, okay, these are the few companies examples that I have put in. So this is, in my opinion, it's not something where it is confirmed. It's up to you guys to interpret. Let me know in the comments below, right, to see whether you guys agree with my allocations of all these companies, and if not, perhaps you can just share with me if there's any other companies that you guys have, and let me know what stages do you regard them as to be. So for example, in my opinion, Arcade is actually still, to me, it's actually a startup stage. I did contemplate to put it, at the stage 1, stage 2 stage, but for now, I'll just keep it at the startup stage because it's still a budding platform, in my opinion, because of the quantum computing. So once quantum computing takes place, of course, this whole thing will ride with the flow as well. So ClearPoint Neuro, okay, to me, I feel that the product, the device from ClearPoint Neuro, it's good. It's proven. It has gotten FDA approval. But because ClearPoint Neuro requires their partners to get FDA approval to use their devices, and because of that, revenues can start coming in, or rather large chunk of revenue can start coming in. So I regard them in between stage 2 and stage 3 kind of concept. Okay, now I've covered it in my first video. Okay, basically, to me, it's about growing now. They have already proven that, they have a proven concept. Their numbers make sense. It's all about growing, scaling, and grabbing more and more market share. That's it. Same for C Group. To me, I feel that it's also in the high growth stage. I don't see them at the mature stage at this moment because they have moved into, in terms of Shopee, for example, because C Group has 3 different arms. We have like the Garena, the Shopee, as well as the C Money. So in terms of the Shopee, they have moved into different countries like Poland, France, Brazil, and stuff. So they are growing in terms of Shopee and C-Money. They are also growing because they have, like for example, in Singapore, they were awarded, the digital bank license. So starting from there, then they will move on to the Southeast Asia portion to start to introduce digital banking to the underserved customers. So there are huge growth potential here. Okay, now for Tesla, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, I deem them as a high growth business. They have a proven concept. Their cars are going well. Okay, so we need their gigafactories to produce more cars to feed the demands. Okay, and so basically to me, it's more of about how they continue to grow and land grab and so on. Okay, so with that, right, I hope you guys have a clearer idea on this thing called the corporate life cycle. In the description below, I have also pasted a write-up, okay, of someone who wrote quite a meaningful description on this whole corporate life cycle. And I also pasted a video by Professor Ashraf himself to go through about this corporate life cycle. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this video, this learning series portion. Please like and subscribe to it, and I'll see you in my next video. Invest safe.